Hey peeps, creeps, and bleeps, it's Jeep No Wrangler, and today we're going to be reading, you guessed it, another story from the r/NoSleep subreddit. Ooh-ah. Let me escort you all into this one, shall we? This is not my timeline. It's been almost 2 weeks since the incident. 10 days and 6 hours to be exact. All I can do is count the time. Someone knows I don't belong, and I know they're waiting for me to slip up on some minor detail. I had just gotten out of the shower when a rush of confusion hit me. It was like I hit my head on the corner of a counter, but I was still conscious, and there was no pain. I felt different. I called my girlfriend Angie to tell her how terrified I was about what just happened, and she didn't seem too concerned. She was busy at work, so I figured she was probably preoccupied and couldn't focus straight. No big deal. She was able to calm me down enough to hang up the phone and go about the night. I couldn't remember much. I didn't even remember what happened that day or even the entire week before. It's all still a blur. So I decided to leave it be until the next day. Angie was asleep when I woke up, so I figured I'd had some time to relax. Except, she looked different. Not a haircut, no makeup, but not how I knew her. Her dirty blonde hair now had less blonde in it. Her smile didn't shine like before, and I instantly knew she was different when she woke up, because her eyes were darker, from a shade of green to brown, and above all else, she had this unsettling mood. Not wanting to bother her, I went to my parents to pick up some mail. Mom wasn't home, but Dad was. Cheery as always, he hugged me when I walked in, and he was different. Slightly taller and a slimmer build, and deeper voiced. Hey, he's been working out lately, and it seems to have paid off finally. We talked for a bit before Mom walked in, and when she saw me, I watched her eyes grow wide as she stuttered through her sentence. She knew, and I was terrified. I didn't bring up the incident, and after her initial shock, Mom carried on. I could immediately tell her differences. She was shorter, her voice was lighter, and her hair was a light brown compared to her almost black hair from before. She had this unsettling stare towards me that no one else seemed to notice. She knew that she couldn't tell anyone. My dad and brother were thankfully oblivious to the heavy air that seemed to settle around the house. And after the uncomfortable conversation, Angie texted me and asked if I wanted to go to her parents for dinner. I shot a quick "sure" text back before saying goodbye to my parents and quickly leaving. Mom stared at me from the kitchen window as I pulled away. When I got home, Angie was watching TV, and she asked how I was feeling. If I was being totally honest with her and told her, I would have probably been submitted to a mental hospital. I mean, who would have believed anything I saw if I told them? I told her I was feeling much better, though I still can't remember much, and I brushed it off, hoping she wouldn't push too much. Thankfully, she didn't. When we got to her parents' house, they opened the door and welcomed us. Her parents had changed exactly opposite of mine. Her dad was shorter and had put on a little bit more weight, and he had a lighter voice, while her mom was taller, voice a little bit deeper, and darker hair. After going inside, I felt so out of place. Her family went on about their day while I sat there, visibly uncomfortable. Angie's dad asked if I was alright, and I told him I was just sore from work. The subject was dropped as we continued on for the night. When we arrived back home, Angie went to shower as I sat down to really examine our apartment. Every piece of furniture, wall objects, and even the flooring had shifted ever so slightly. It was here I was finally able to realize it could be an effect from me hitting my head on something at work, perhaps. The weird thing is I hadn't hit my head on anything in months. After Angie got out, I hopped in, hoping to reverse the horrible day. Once out of the shower, I felt better and ready to forget the delusion I've been in. I laid down to the first rest that lasted longer than 4 hours, only to wake up and realize I was still in this nightmare. My mother keeps calling me, asking me to come over for an impractical task. She seems to be getting more and more adamant that I go over there whenever she's there. I agreed to go over there the next day after work, just to stop the questions. I got to my parents' house, and my mom was the only one home. So nervously, I asked what she needed help with. She told me something was going on with her stove and asked if I could help her move it out. But once we got to the kitchen, she sat down at the table and asked me to join her. I slowly walked over and took a seat, and she asked something disturbing. "Who are you?" It took me by surprise. I didn't expect her to be so blunt with it. I paused for a moment before replying. "What do you mean?" Her eyes narrowed for a second before returning to normal with her reply of, "Just wondering." Her off-centered smile sent chills up my spine. We proceeded with pulling the stove out so she could retrieve whatever it was that she lost, and I went on my way back home. Angie was in the living room watching TV and asked what my mom needed help with. So I told her. Of course, I didn't mention the weird conversation, but she knew I held back, and she didn't want to push any further. Everything continued on as normal before bed, and once we were laying next to each other, I caught Angie staring hard at me. Blank expression, no smile, almost like she was looking right through me. I don't know if I'll last much longer here. Angie is starting to get suspicious of me too. I have one question. What do you even do in a situation like this? I mean, like, sure, they may or may not find out you aren't exactly you, but like, what can you really do about it? Anyways, second story of my return. Me personally, I rated a solid 7.115 because, I mean, I love psychological horror, psych horror, and the idea of alternate timelines is fascinating to me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Remember to send that like button to God. Stay safe, don't stay out too late, and remember to always be kind, creepers. This is Whitlock, signing off.